Everybody take out this sheet. Got it? Alright, this is the sermon event for Saturday, October 25th. That's this Saturday, right?
Yes.
Okay. I am like, okay. Alright, if you can go, alright, if you know you can go right now, I need to give that name to Alexa tonight. Alright, if you're not sure, you need to give your name and you're not sure to Alexa tonight. If you know you can't, you need to give your name to Alexa tonight. Alright?
We can't, but Alexa, we brought some donations.
Okay, alright. Got it? Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on your sheet here, it says, look at your sheet, it says 11:30 p.m. Anybody see a problem with that?
That's in the middle of the night.
Right, it's 11:30 a.m.
Oh, good thing.
Okay.
At first I was like, you want us to work
Right.
and then till then?
Yeah.
Why? Let's just camp over.
Alright, I haven't done this in a little bit. So, who has prayed? Who has prayed already? Alright, you prayed, Sam prayed, Tiny prayed.
I prayed.
I mean, pray to start class off.
Yes.
You prayed? Thank you, Sarah, for volunteering. Alright.
Okay, dear Lord, thank you for this day. Please help us get through the rest of the week. Please, if we are sick, make us feel better. Please be with those who are hurt.
Amen. We're missing Jordan and Grace and Molly are not here tonight.
Justin.
Jordan.
Justin's in Canada.
Alright.
Justin.
Okay.
Grace is sick because after school she told me
Yep.
she had a fever.
Okay, yeah, alright.
Canada. I don't know what day it's on.
Okay, alright.
Justin and Jason. Justin and Jason.
Yeah.
Those are two.
Justin from Canada.
Alright, so everybody turn the camera and go hi. Hi! Alright.
Couldn't hear that.
So let's look at what is. Let's do a little review here. Just repetition. Mr. Jim, confirmation lesson. All right. Upper story is what? When we talk about upper story, that means. Somebody, yeah. The big picture of it, right? All right. Well, the lower story is.
The details.
The details. Very good. All right. Good way to keep track of it. All right. Last week, this is the list you made. Remember this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So look over that list. I left them in the order that we had written them. All right. What do we got? Creation 1A and 1B. The fall 2A and 2B. Verse 3. 3 is promised to Adam and Eve. 4 is the flood. And then we put 4B is Abraham, promised Abraham is 4B. Joseph 4B. 5 is Moses. 6 is the plagues. 7 Exodus. Red Sea. 7B is the 10 Commandments. 7C is the tabernacle. 8, 9, 10. 10, where's 10? 10, David. So, Bible scholars here, make sure this is what you want. Is there anything that we need to add to that based on what we've talked about?
Like based on the reading we just did?
Based on the reading we've done, based on what you're remembering, remember what we've talked about, is there anything? Remember, it's upper big picture here. All right, Sam, you had a thought. All right.
Yeah. So David falls in love with Bathsheba.
Okay. All right. Okay. Want to abbreviate? All right, Bathsheba. There. Okay, we'll put that in there. What else? Yeah.
He's gonna have a kid with her and then he kills her.
Okay, is that big picture or is that details?
And
The killing is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's where he kind
Right.
of turns against God. But
Right. Okay. That's good, okay. Can we just, for the sake of summary, can we just throw it in with Bathsheba here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, I don't think, good? That's a good list. You guys did a good list last week. That's kind of where we're going with it. All right. Let's look at, I want you to review 11 here, last week's, and we're going to do something here.
Oh, can I be the tech guy?
Is it on? No, I got it. Here it is.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the camera. I was like, you had a screen. I had it. So. That'd be awkward if it was sit on. We had so much fun.
Recap of 11. There you go.
One day, God told the prophet Samuel that it was time for a new king and sent him to the house of a man named Jesse. Samuel told Jesse that David, his youngest son, would be the future king of Israel. Shortly after this, a gigantic Philistine warrior named Goliath would walk down to the valley and mock the Israelites. David went down into the valley, pulled out a stone, put it in a sling, and flung it at the giant. And then David killed him. King Saul became very jealous. Saul tried to kill David, but David escaped into the desert. The Philistines attacked the Israelites and killed all 3 of Saul's sons. When Saul heard the news, he was so upset that he took out his own sword, fell on it, and killed himself. Then David was named King of Israel. One of David's descendants would become a king unlike any before, one whose rule would never end.
All right. A little review before we move on, so we're catching what's happening. There's a pattern I want you to pick up on. So let's go back. Good Old Testament scholars, you're with me on this. What's the first promise that God made? Yeah.
To Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. All right. And same in a nutshell, that promise was.
That like he was gonna take care of them.
Okay. All right. How about if we let me put Savior will come?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Take care of the sin. And then what did the people do following that? What was the very next story in there that followed? Yeah.
Is it Cain and Abel?
Very good. Cain and Abel. What happened? I'll abbreviate. What happened to Cain and Abel? What happened to Cain and Abel?
Promise or what actually happened?
What? Yes, okay. They did, right? Another word for it is they killed. I'll just leave that. Okay. Okay. What's the next one? Yeah.
Isn't it Abraham?
Abraham. Very good.
I wanted to say Jacob.
And the promise to Abraham is where it
He
is.
would have as many descendants as the stars he took care of.
Okay. Descendants. Okay. And there was 3. Remember all 3?
He would have the land as far he could.
The land and yeah.
Lots of kids.
Lots of kids, yes, descendants, land, and the 3rd one's the hardest one, remember? All nations will be blessed, right?
Oh.
Blessing. And what happened to Abraham's descendants? What did they do?
They were bad.
What's that?
They were bad.
They were bad how?
They started sinning.
Okay. All right. you remember exactly how it describes? You're on the right track. Remember how it describes?
They weren't living their life through God. They were like arguing and fighting with each other.
All right. Now the phrase for that is
War?
They weren't trusting in God, they were believing in other things.
okay. Yeah. There's a word for that is called idols, right? Okay. In Egypt, they worship the idols.
Oh.
Next promise is, we saw, is,
Noah?
what's that?
Wasn't it Noah? The ark?
Yeah, we're going to skip that one. Okay. Yeah, you're right. We kind of skipped that one. Okay, I'm going to pick it up. That's one. We're on a train here, right? The one that falls after Abraham is... Bibles, Exodus 20. Yes.
Would it be the 10 Commandments?
All right, 10 Commandments. Another name for that is?
Exodus?
Nice long word.
Oh,
Covenant. Right? Covenant means what, somebody? Yeah. It's an agreement. Very good. It's an agreement between who and who? You're on a roll. God and His people. And how does the covenant start? Who's got Exodus 20, verse 1 over?
I'm getting mother.
I'm not so confused.
20 verse what?
20 verse 1. We got people looking it up, so. Genesis, Exodus, so it's going to be toward the front of the book. Everybody memorize those books of the Bible, right?
yes.
So if I had you do the books of the Bible, you can do it?
Yes.
There might be a few.
All right, some of the minor prophets are tough. All right? Somebody who's got Exodus chapter 20, verse 1, read it. Yeah. Starting at verse 1, I'll stop you when you get there.
And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me.
That's good. Stop right there. So what did God do?
He got them out of Egypt.
Right, brought them out of Egypt. Right? Brought them out of Egypt. Another word for that is deliverance. He delivered them, right?
Yeah.
And what did the people do? Right after this.
They built a calf.
Yeah, all right. The golden calf, right? Now the next promise is made to who? No. Made to who? David. All right. And what's that promise? It was the last thing they said on the screen, by the way. Yeah.
One of his descendants would have the throne forever.
Right. Okay. A son of yours will be king. Now, good Bible students, we know that son ultimately is who?
Jesus.
Right? Well, we're going to track that promise through here as we go through. You with me?
Mhm.
Okay. This, how many people read the lesson? Good.
I didn't know.
All right. This lesson is one of those deep lessons. Right? Some of the stuff is more adult, so we're all adults here, and we're going to treat it that way in here. We can be as blunt with this story as we need to be. Okay? In here, not shocking, but we need to understand there's a story here, and it's as bad as it sounds. All right? So we'll just watch it.
One day, King David was walking around the roof of his palace and saw a woman bathing in her home. Her name was Bathsheba, the wife of a soldier named Uriah, who was off fighting in the war. David thought she was beautiful and sent his messengers to get her. They brought her to him, and David and Bathsheba slept with one another. Shortly after, Bathsheba sent word to David that she was pregnant with David's child. To hide what he had done, David quickly devised a plan. He called Uriah back from the war, hoping that he would sleep with Bathsheba, and it would look like he had gotten her pregnant. But when Uriah came home, he slept on a mat outside his house because he didn't want to disrespect his fellow soldiers still at war by living comfortably while he was at home. So David came up with another plan. He sent Uriah back to the battlefield and instructed the commander to put Uriah on the front lines of battle, where he was most likely to be killed. And that's exactly what happened. Shortly after, David married Bathsheba, and she gave birth to their son. But God was unhappy with David and sent Nathan to tell him a story. There were two men, one rich and one poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little lamb who was like a child to him. Now a guest comes to the home of the rich man, but instead of taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal, the rich man steals the poor man's one sheep and kills it. David was furious. "This man must die for what he has done," David said. Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man." David immediately realized how wrong he had been and confessed to Nathan and to God all of the things he had done. Even though God forgave David, there were still terrible consequences because of his actions. David and Bathsheba's infant son became sick and died. Then, years later, their second son, Absalom, did something no one, even David, expected. He gathered an army together to overthrow his father as king. Before the battle began, David gave instructions to his soldiers not to kill Absalom. But during the battle, Absalom was riding a mule under the thick branches of a large oak tree, and his hair got caught in the tree, leaving him hanging as the mule rode away. One of David's commanders, Joab, found Absalom, and despite David's instructions, he and his soldiers drove their spears through Absalom and killed him. Because of this, David was heartbroken. Even after these tragedies, David continued to worship God. He had not forgotten about God's promise to one day build the temple. So David told his son, Solomon, that he was to start building it. In his final days as king, David led the Israelites in worship of God for all of the ways that God had helped them and provided for them over the years. Then, shortly before his death, David handed over his kingship to Solomon.
All right, what I'd like you to do is take out your sheets, the weekly sheets we've been using, where it says see the story. You'll write that story down, write a symbol, a paragraph or something, some sort of visual picture in there that this reminds you of, and then we're going to have to get together in your groups and talk about that. All right, what reminded you in that story? Okay. Your pictures or drawing groups get together and share this. All right, Miss Janet, I'm going to ask you if you would put these girls here. Okay. Here.
Don't know why.
Tia, water. The baby got hanging from the tree with its vehicle. Sheep scratching. No, that's a tree. That's not a tree.
The tree and the guy getting his hair cut.
What did you do?
I'm not quite, so I seen in writing and drawing, but I kind of, I just said that the acknowledging the sin, and that's important him if you're already, he was really pointed out to him just like the things
Okay, I drew that David pops Bathsheba, and then that love was greater than God at the time of his life. And then that caused all his complaints. Like, love being greater than Christ.
I thought the same thing. It was definitely
I drew a guy and a girl instead because there's a lot of killing going on, and then I drew a baby up there because the baby.
oh yeah, was it, would that be David's baby? Is the baby? I don't even know.
Yeah, the baby got for David's action. He said I was confused.
Baby along with that.
His punishment was that the baby got sick in the
You're all
She has cameras. Nobody else.
That's why not the spear of whoever killed him.
Covered in wax or something.
That was a very long day.
Same
I didn't mean to draw his mouth like that. I just wanted to make his mouth out. It looked like a silly face. And I was like,
recovered from camp.
and also,
She's been sick ever since.
I fell asleep in math class today.
Fell asleep in math class?
Yeah.
Math or religion?
Alright, good job, you guys.
That's what
Yeah.
maybe.
Ice cream and broccoli.
Oh,
I saw you. You're tall enough that I see your head, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna draw a hole around it. Like the phrase.
I did chapel at St. Paul's this morning. That's right. So, everybody's grasping the story here. All right? Yes. Everybody pretty much grasped the story. Right? Alexa's passing this around. Be sure to put your name on it and write it's either yes, I don't know, or no.
Wait, what?
Right? So when she's got a list. Right? Somebody up here said, what was the comment? Was this heavy?
Yeah.
Light reading?
What?
No. All right. Well, is this one of those warm and fuzzy stories, or is this one of those stories that?
No.
No. All right. So did you know that there were stories like this in the Bible?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Hey, you're ahead of a lot of adults. In here. All right. Now we're going to talk about this and what it means. But what I want you to do is I want you to watch. This does a good job in telling the story. But I got to cop something too. I got to fess up here to you. This Buck Denver video, this series, are these okay, or is this you like? Show of hands. You like these okay?
Yeah.
A little creepy. All right, we got a creepy. We got this is okay. All right. We kind of like them because they're a little on the corny side, but they do a good job telling the story. This does a good job telling the story, but it's technically written for an age group lower than you are. Which means their maturity level is lower. Okay? Like maybe 5th graders. So what I say that because some of the story that they talk about David and Bathsheba, in this they make it sound like it's no big deal. Alright? Now you guys have read the story. You know it is a big deal. But you know where they're coming from now. They're writing for your younger brothers and sisters. Right? You're not going to go home and talk. You can go home and talk to mom and dad about this. But you don't go home and talk about your younger brothers and sisters. Guess what we talked about today? Right? You with me? Okay. Let me get this started.
What happens next? Things went wonderfully for quite a while, but not forever.
Uh-oh. What happened? More Philistines?
No, it wasn't the Philistines. It was David himself. Things go downhill in the second half of 2 Samuel, all because of David's sin.
Oh dear. What did he do?
Well, David is older now. His army is out battling one of their enemies, and for some reason, David didn't go with them. He stayed home. So while his generals and soldiers are fighting, he's just sitting at home with nothing to do.
That doesn't sound like David.
No, it doesn't. While he was at home with nothing to do, he saw a beautiful woman named Bathsheba. Bathsheba was so beautiful that David wanted her to be his wife.
And that's bad? He was bad because she was already married. She was somebody else's wife. Oh, that is bad. But David didn't care. He wanted her as his wife so much, he just took her.
What did her husband say?
Sometimes to cover up the bad things we've done, we do things that are even worse. Bathsheba's husband was a man named Uriah, a faithful soldier in David's army. To cover up his sin, David told his general to put Uriah in a place in the battle where he was sure to be killed. Wait, you had Uriah killed?
I'm speechless.
Yep. First, David stole someone's wife. This is called adultery, and it's breaking one of the 10 Commandments. Then he had Bathsheba's husband killed. This is murder, breaking another one of the 10 Commandments.
So David committed adultery and then committed murder to cover up the adultery.
Yep.
Was he thinking God wouldn't notice?
If he was, that thought didn't last very long. God sent a prophet named Nathan to tell David that God knew exactly what he had done.
And what did David do?
Well, he didn't make excuses like Saul did when he sinned. David repented.
What's repented?
To repent means to change your mind and will, to turn away from wrongdoing and sin.
David confessed his sins. He asked God for forgiveness, and he wrote the most beautiful example of repentance in the entire Bible.
Can we hear it?
He says, "Have mercy on me, O God, because of your unfailing love. Against you and you alone have I sinned. I've done what is evil in your sight. Purify me from my sins, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and make me willing to obey you." There's a lot more. You can read it in the book of Psalms. It's Psalm 51.
David asked God to forgive him for his sins. He asked God to give him a clean heart and strength so he wouldn't sin like that ever again.
David shows us what to do when we break God's law. When Saul disobeyed God, he made excuses. He said, "Well, I kind of obeyed," or "I was just doing what the people told me to do." When David sinned, he didn't make excuses. He said, "Forgive me, God, for I have sinned. Wash me whiter than snow. Give me a clean heart, and help me not to sin again." When you break God's law, when you say something that isn't true, or take something that isn't yours, or hurt someone, do you make excuses like Saul? Or do you ask God for forgiveness and for the strength to do better next time, like David?
So what happened next? Did God forgive David for his sin?
Of course he did. When you repent like David did, God promises that he will always forgive you. But,
I hate it when there's a but.
But sin has consequences.
What do you mean?
If you lie to your friends, God will forgive you, but your friends still might not trust you to tell the truth the next time. If you're a grown-up and you lie to your boss at work, God will forgive you, but you still might lose your job.
those are consequences of our sin.
David had consequences.
David had consequences. After he repented of his sin, the prophet Nathan came to him with another message from God. He said, "God has taken your sin away from you. You will not die."
Wait, die? David was going to die for his sin? Remember, what's the penalty for sinning against a holy God? Oh yeah, death.
Exactly. So what Nathan was saying was that God was taking away the penalty David deserved. God was forgiving him. But...
Here comes the but.
Nathan said David wouldn't die, but the child he had had with Bathsheba, the wife he had stolen, that child would die.
It's a sad story. 7 days after David and Bathsheba's son was born, that son died, just like Nathan had said.
And David's heart was very heavy, because he knew this had been caused by his own sin.
The rest of 2 Samuel isn't any happier. Another one of David's sons, Absalom, hates his father and wants to kill David so he can become king. David's men have to kill Absalom to protect David. And Nathan says all of this mess is because of David's sin.
I don't like the end of 2 Samuel. The first half was much happier.
Yes, it was. Once again, sin messes up a perfectly good story. So that's 2 Samuel. How about a song to sum it all up?
Like this one.
And now, the fabulous Bentley Brothers.
There. Now, this is your, everybody got the story, right? Everybody's good on the story. We're here, right? What was just a little bit of review, what was last week's story with David? Who can give us the 2-minute summary? All right.
Didn't he become king because he hit Goliath in the head with the forehead and killed him, and then Saul tried to kill him, but he forgave Saul.
Right.
And then Saul killed himself because his son died.
Okay. Got it? Everybody got it? It's pretty accurate. Everybody with the story? So, last week I asked you a question. I'm going to ask you the same question here. Was David a good king or was David a bad king? You must choose between one or the other. Was David a good king or was David a bad king? Who says good? Who says bad? All right. I didn't see everybody raise their hands. Right? Who said good? All right. Who said bad? Connie, Alexa. All right. I need you to split up. All right. I'm going to put all the people who think that David was a good king come up over here. Everybody who thinks that David was a bad king, go to the back table over there. All right. Blair, I'm going to have you go to the back.
Okay.
All right. What I want you to do, we're going to have a little debate here. All right. Points. I need you to spend about 5 minutes writing down all those reasons you think David was a good king. And you guys got to write all the reasons you think David was a bad king. All right?
You can sing
He repented his sins. Yeah, faithful.
So he committed adultery.
Repented, what was yours?
Uriah's wife.
You said something else. You were saying something else.
He trusted God.
Repent. No, we can't repent. You said something else.
He trusted in God after all this stuff.
He tried different ways. He tried multiple times. So he multiple times he tried to cover up.
He was a good good fighter. Fighter, you could kill someone with a stone. Well, he did it. He's like,
What else? He wrote Psalm 51.
She's like really good.
The best
She was really good. Church. She teaches Sunday school. Jack. That was my favorite story.
What happened next in the story?
He was brave.
Who did he end up killing? After Uriah.
Okay. You do kind of toward the end.
Who did he cause the death of by his sins?
Yeah. Okay.
What else? Okay, that was very good.
No, I just read it.
Oh, it was the Mary and
Other son?
He
You know these stories? I didn't know these stories over here.
He had a free period. Even if he didn't do something right, he still tried to do it.
Guess what? I don't get to see.
Out of all those zeros, no, the
She like, I know.
Okay.
he was humble.
There was Civil War.
He was.
Yeah. Absalom rebelled.
That's right.
Caused the Civil War.
That's right.
Hi, bud.
Even caused his own soldiers to disobey him, too. Because they ended up killing his son when he told them not to. So his own soldiers were
You're not gonna eat anything.
not necessarily rebelling, but not going with them.
They feel like you're walking down the ground. They have no Christian experience.
I like it.
I like this one.
Yeah.
I know, I don't
This whole thing is stupid. I I won't be doing anything except eating candy. It's supposed to be for the trick-or-treaters.
Right now they're working on whether David was a good king or a bad king, and they're working on explanation reasons for that. So stand by.
Hello, people.
Okay,
All right, what you got?
who's gonna read these?
Guys, go for it.
Okay.
All right.
I'm taller. I'm here. I'm taller.
He killed Goliath.
I'm here.
Yes, he was
Can you write?
He was faithful.
I mean, like you have like decent penmanship. All right, hey, say somebody's going to class with Ty. Does Ty like have decent penmanship?
Yes, he was brave. My handwriting is not bad.
I don't need not bad. Mine's not bad.
My handwriting,
Okay. All right.
All we did good, you did the bad.
Everybody have a seat. All right, everybody have a seat. All right. We got our scribes here.
I don't remember memorize what we said.
We lost everybody.
I think we can do it to the bathroom.
It was a mess.
Although we can't do this at everybody, so we're up. I'll sing.
Guess what? I got a class on my math test. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like really good.
Who had the smallest bladder on the trip?
where we went. There it is.
We had to stop for him like 3 times.
It was actually twice. Actually, once on the way there.
Guys, it's an hour, man.
No.
If I can make it an hour and a half, you guys can make it an hour.
My pregnant aunt made it like 6 hours.
Yeah,
they were outside.
But I thought it was 4 hours. It was 4.5 hours.
It's 4.5
Yeah, it's
hours.
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Doing about.
It just feels like
He was asleep.
it just feels like 25 coming back, right? Did you drive?
Yeah, I drove.
You drove? It does feel like you got 25 coming back.
Maggie asked, she was like, who didn't sleep the whole entire way here? And then he was like, me.
Did you have somebody keep you awake?
In my
Actually, I was thinking I would need, because that Saturday I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be a hard drive tomorrow after not a lot of sleep the first night, and then all the activities.
Me and Kalani kept you up.
Oh my god. I eventually just gave up going to sleep.
The third row. I thought Ty would be the loudest, but that was
No,
not
Ty-
anywhere near.
We thought Ty was dead for a minute because he was our
2,
squad done.
and 3.
Bass, got that super bass.
I was doing it. I was coming back from junior high retreat one time,
Oh Lord.
and we had one of those 15-passenger vans that was jam-packed.
That's weird.
All right, jam-packed. And had all 15 seats taken up, had the luggage, you know, jammed in everywhere.
Yep.
So we were coming down, and we stopped down in Camdenton someplace and got, I think, McDonald's and got lunch, right? And we headed down after, you know, getting lunch, and we turned on to 44. I peeled on to 44, and as I turned on to 44, headed to St. Louis, I looked through that back mirror in there. There were no heads. I didn't see a head one. And I drove all the way down to the Jackson exit, right there at Center Junction. No heads at all. All right? And so I decided, since they got to sleep all 4.5 hours on the way back, as we came off the exit, I just rolled the right side tires on rumble strips on the edge of the train.
Oh, I thought you meant that you forgot them. I was like, that's what I thought.
All right, everybody. There, okay. All right. We're the ladies first. Somebody with the bag. Give me a reason. Give us a reason.
He committed adultery.
All right. Write it down.
All right.
Worried about the spelling.
I-E-E-D.
No, it's gonna teach you.
Oh, well, no.
T-E-R-Y.
All
right. All right. Committed adultery, right? Or we're all good on these reasons. Okay. Somebody who has the good list. Give us the good. Whoever's got it, speak up.
He was brave.
Brave. All right.
Brave.
You can just agree. Okay. And you have to write it. All right. Kalani, you got the bad list?
Yeah.
Okay.
He committed murder.
Murder. You put murder down. All right. Somebody with the good list.
Good warrior.
Good warrior. W-A-R-R.
What?
I-O-R.
Okay. I just have those two.
All right. Somebody, come on, bad list.
He disobeyed God.
Disobeyed God. Capital G-O-D.
He's the one for me. G-O-D.
Couldn't pass. Sorry, couldn't pass. Sorry, I couldn't pass that one. That joke is just sitting on the table here. Somebody good list. Hang on, quiet.
He was always faithful.
Always faithful no matter what. I don't. Hey, no. Wait a second.
Well, he realized his problem.
Okay, hang on a second. All right, you guys who were on the bad side, you know, you guys want to challenge this? You want me to challenge? I'll let you guys. Can you challenge that one?
So if your husband committed adultery, is he always faithful?
Not to you, but to God. Faithful to God.
Well, once he
But
committed
wasn't that a
it, he
commandment?
Right, but it's not he realized it was wrong and he because everyone's a sinner.
He prayed and asked for forgiveness.
But it's because everyone's a sinner.
Exactly.
There's no one that's
All right.
perfect.
So nobody is always faithful.
I have a statement.
No, they're just sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. This is I'm the one that
Hang on.
I kind of brought that up only instead of like trust. He repented and then he trusted God even though he knew all his sons died and he still was faithful in God through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ty's got it here. Okay. I'll let you keep that one. All right.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Okay. Good job, Ty. All right, Kalani.
Well, he wasn't brave because it was scared like. That's why he tried to cover up when he committed adultery, and then
Okay.
he covered up with murder.
There you go.
Well, no,
Hit the cover up.
but we.
All right.
We were talking about he was brave when he was in war. Yeah.
All right.
When he led his kingdom.
Somebody with the good list.
Oh crap. He wrote a song.
What?
Yeah, he wrote songs. That's what
He
Sam
killed
said.
Goliath. All right.
Oh
That
yeah.
counts.
Killed. I'm not the one that said that. I said he wrote like a. I said he wrote. Sarah, can I see the list?
G-O-L. G-O-L.
Can you read it? I go to decipher what it says.
I-A-T-H.
I was trying to.
I don't think you're.
I think Ty's handwriting's about like mine. All right. Bad list. Come on. You got anything else?
He caused the Civil War.
Causes a civil war.
That was his son.
You catch that? Hey.
He made his son.
You guys with me?
But that was his son.
Cause a civil war.
About that.
All right.
That's fun though.
All right.
Wait, but wouldn't the Civil War be his son's problem? Well, he made his son though.
Like,
Son is
well,
like
yeah,
but he's not his son.
And
I
he
mean,
raised
David
his
made
son.
you too, technically.
Hold on. Hang on. All right, quiet. Thank you. Because you got a good point here. How did David cause a civil war? Did he cause a civil war?
No, his son.
But how did that happen?
Because his son hated him. Because his son hated him.
Have you ever
And
disagreed
it's
with your
his
parents?
fault for making his son hate him.
No.
Yeah.
Because it was his choices that made all the bad
One at a
things
time.
happen.
This is that one at a time rule. All right.
It was like
Guys?
he knew that from his choices that he made with the murder and adultery or whatever, that stuff like that was gonna happen. So technically, his decisions made that happen.
Thank you. So what team were you on? Were you on the good team or the bad team?
Oh,
Because you got three bad teams.
and glory.
When? Hang on. When?
Credit and glory. I don't know. Mackenzie said it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I said that.
All right.
Sam said
It's
it.
right down.
When I said that, I was thinking it like he credited God with like killing Goliath, and then he gave like the glory when like he repented.
All right.
What is it?
So he gave
God credit.
All right.
praise God. Maybe. Yeah, praise God.
Oh yeah, praise God.
That works.
That.
There we go.
Bad list.
He basically killed his baby since he sinned.
Sin causes his
But that goes
child
back
to
to
die.
his choice. Yeah, that goes back to his choice.
Okay.
No, it was his choice because he
All
could
right.
not murdered them.
All right.
That
Good list. Who's got next one on the good list?
Haley's got it.
All right.
He wrote Psalm.
Which one?
Which one, Sam?
It's Psalm 52. 51. No, 51.
51.
Psalm 51.
Close.
It's a great song, by the way. It's your homework. Go read Psalm 51 tonight.
God.
All right. Bad list. Anything else?
Nope.
No. Apparently I'm for their team now.
Okay.
Shame, Haley.
So, trying to make that sound good. Or bad. Or good.
I like this. Haley's making the point for both lists.
Wait, what?
Let's go, bad team!
He killed his other son from his choices.
What's that?
He killed his other son, the one that got stabbed with the
Yes.
spear.
Right? Kill
Oh,
that.
well, I guess I'm the bad side. I'm sorry.
The soldier killed the son.
All right.
No, but it leads back to the part that it's his choices that he made of adultery and murder is what comes with his son's dying.
But that.
Okay. He technically, well, yes, I agree with your statement about his choices, but he said he did not want his son to die. The soldiers on their own.
But it's that fault that he did.
Oh my God! What I'm saying is, his choices.
I was still talking.
He was aware that his sons were gonna die, or he knew bad things were gonna happen.
His sons were gonna die.
He knew bad things were gonna happen.
to him.
Not before.
You guys are missing a really good one tonight.
I was not
All right. Okay.
Just enough.
Okay, we're gonna. All right. This one card. Okay.
Oh, darn it.
You got any more? All
I
right.
switched over.
Hang on. All right. You got any more? All right. Good list. Do you have any more?
Mackenzie, you get the list.
No.
I have a new one.
He was humble. That's the last one on there.
I have another one.
Well, did we say good warriors?
Yeah.
All right.
Dad has one more. What?
All right.
Tell me, brother.
Go ahead.
No, one more up there.
Go to the bad list. All right.
Tell me.
You have another on bad?
No.
Okay. All right. Here. You guys can sit down.
I guess I'm on the bad side now. Kind of.
All right.
What?
All right. Have a seat.
Tell me. Oh.
All right. Alex, do you have some?
I got the pepper on my face.
All right.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Everybody else?
I don't want to
All right. Alex.
He ordered the soldiers not to kill his son.
You ordered. Is that a good list? Or bad?
I'm sorry.
Seth?
Quit complimenting him touching your lip again.
Well, I didn't even get it all.
All right. Now. What was the last comment? You got.
Okay, I was gonna ask a question. So on the bad list, if we have that he disobeyed God, then doesn't that make all of us bad? If that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
We're
we
all
repented, and that's part of the good list. So you can't say he disobeyed God because God forgave him.
But he
But God
still
forgives us.
did.
Well, so do you. We don't say you're a bad person.
You are very
We say you're a saint.
But we're both sinners.
No, we're both saints.
This is This is my favorite lesson.
We're sinners.
We are saved!
All right.
This is true.
My floor. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Will you let me get away with saying here, when you start looking down here, there's a good side to David, and there's a bad side to David.
Yes.
You with me on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There's a good side and a bad side. Haley, I love that in here you were making both sides at the same time.
I guess I'm the line in the middle of them.
Okay.
That's just me.
All right. We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
All right. What I want you to do is I want you to take out your Bibles. I want you to look up Acts 13:22. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, Corinthians. Acts 13:22.
I got it.
What page is it?
It is page 1852. Sounds like an important date in history. No, just kidding. This day is just kidding.
Wait, isn't that 18 something?
I was born in 1860.
Isn't that when that happened?
I don't know. We don't pay attention to this.
1862, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
It's 1680. It's 14. Oh yeah, 1490.
All right. Everybody's got it, right?
Yeah. What is it?
13, Matthew.
Acts.
Acts. Shh. My floor. Acts 13:22. I need a volunteer to read that passage. All right. Alex, you want to read it? Nice and loud.
And when he had removed him, he raised up David to be their king, of whom he testified and said, I have found in David the son of Jesse, a man after my heart, who will do all my will.
All right. Say it again, nice and loud. Again.
And when he had removed him, he raised up David to be their king, of whom he testified and said, I have found in David the son of Jesse, a man after my heart.
Stop. Who's talking?
God.
God. How does he describe David?
The son of Jesse, a man after my heart.
A man after whose heart?
God's heart.
Thank you, Alex. All right. A man after God's heart. What is the Bible's decision? Is whether David is a good king or a bad king?
Okay.
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 Right? Right? Bible says, right? In the end, it's David is a good king. All right?
But he has
Right.
But he has. But it's just like us.
Now, right?
He's
a good
Now,
king.
God doesn't.
There's a couple of. Let me do this. It's gonna bother me. There's a couple of things that help us process this, okay? What we're talking about. First one, I want to go back to Haley a minute ago, all right? Haley was doing what a minute? What were you doing a minute? Remember?
I was debating for both sides.
Right, okay? And you ended up saying what, right? That David had...
Well, like he made bad decisions that affected the rest of his life.
All right. Now the other nice...
So he sinned.
Right? What, he what?
He sinned.
He sinned. So we'll call him a sinner, right?
Yeah.
But the other half of that was what?
Saint.
What?
Saint.
Why?
Because he did good things too. For his kingdom.
No.
And for God.
No. He's a saint. Why?
Because he repented.
No, a saint. Why?
He trusted in God.
What?
He trusted in God.
Trusted in God with what?
Save him.
forgive him. Right? There is inside of, we talk about this, right? In confirmation, the Lutherans describe this, is David is a great example of this, and I had you struggle with this, and you guys had fun with it. Every year people have class have fun with this lesson. But inside us, right, there's two sides to us. And somebody was, we were talking about that here. Somebody said, right, well, we're just like David, aren't we? Well, guess what? We are. There's a side of us in here that's the sinner side. Despite what we know, despite what's happening here, despite how things go and what God says, we keep disobeying. But there's this other side of us that we're saints. We're children of God. We talk about it in church. You hear us talking in church. The word we use in here is the word identity. This is who we are. Not because he repented, not because he was a great warrior, but it's because what God did. Notice in that passage in Acts it said, God says, I found a man after my own heart. It's not what David did, it's what God's declaring him to be. We are saints, even though we sin. We are saints because of what God has done. Has declared you to be a saint. Declared you to be his child. Declared you to be free of your sins. That's who he's made you to be. Even though you may feel like David, this is who we are. This is what we need to remember, is who we are in here. Second thing I want to talk about in here is the second half of this is, they talked about it in here. Right? It starts off, I'll give you the first, it's 3 words. Right? Sin, what's the second word? There's 3 words. Can you give me the order? Sin, what follows sin? What's that? Here. Sin. Everybody's scared now, right?
Yes. Where's your number one?
Okay. Sin. What's that? No.
Did we learn this last year?
You may have.
Oh, great.
Right? He talked about it in the lesson.
Was it like
both lessons talked about this point.
Was it like when we did that?
All right, Jesus. Okay, I'll give you that. What's Jesus bring?
Grace.
Grace. All right. Think about the story. David does that, commits adultery. David commits murder, tries to cover it up. There's all kinds of sins going on in here, right? In here. Nathan confronts him. He repents. What follows that? Right? Nathan says, and read the story, right? You're not going to die. God's forgiven your sins, all right? There's Jesus and there's this grace part coming in here. But the third thing that comes in is what? Big word. Consequences. You see it in the story, right? Was David forgiven?
Yeah.
Did David have to live with the consequences?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. David had to live with the consequences. I think it's a true story. We're talking adult stuff tonight. Happened several years ago. in here, there was a young lady that she and her boyfriend were dating. She was in her 20s. She was out of school, and so was her boyfriend. And they were dating. And one night they were sitting over at her place and watching movies. And one thing led to another, and they committed adultery. Right? In here. Nice church-going girl. She went to church as well in here, and she realized what she'd done, okay, immediately. Went to her pastor, confessed the whole thing in here. Pastor forgave her, okay. She went and talked to her boyfriend, said, okay, we gotta set up barriers, we can't do this again. He said, you're right, we can't. And they set up those barriers, and they said, okay, we're gonna stay out of those situations so that it doesn't happen anymore. And they were all good and happy in here. All right? And this is over the course of a couple of weeks after the incident. And, you know, so they had to sin. She came and confessed. They had the grace for both of them. Everything was good. All right? The consequence was she was pregnant. All right? Man, the baby was born. She married another guy. That was 20 years ago. They had a wonderful marriage and had the kids, and everything turned out well. Okay. Real life example. But you see the same thing here with David and Bathsheba in here. With this, you have sin, you have grace, and you have consequences. You know what happens sometimes as we go through life in here? We sit here and we do these things that are wrong. We say, Jesus will forgive me. And He will. Right? He's great. The consequences are not getting taken away. If you come in here and say, you come in and you go to school in here and you decide you can't pass the math, the history test, you decide to cheat on the history test, okay? In here. And you get caught, all right? You come to Mom, and Mom forgives you. Come to me, and I forgive you. In here. But guess what the consequence is? You get to take history in summer school because the teacher's going to flunk you. Right? Sin, grace, consequences. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is back on this. I want you to take you down to here, all right? Because I didn't fill in this chart. This is what I want to leave you with here. Adam and Eve, you know, God made a promise of a Savior, and people sinned and they disobeyed, right? And Cain and Abel killed. Right? What did God do? Forgave. Right? He gave him another promise to Abraham. And when they sinned here, guess what He did? Forgave. There's a little thing called the Exodus stuck in here. Right? And when they came in this covenant here, and they went in and they did the golden calf, what did He do? Forgave. And when they kept disobeying, what did He do? He raised up a king. And when David came in here and David sinned, all right, what did God do? Forgave. Okay. God still used David. And when we sit here, it's important for you to realize. You sit here, because at times we feel this sin stuff, is on red here, at times we feel this sin stuff, right? But God forgives and God uses you. Just like He used David. Because this next story, all right, in here, that you're going to read next week, is this, all right, is coming in, is David and Bathsheba, that first child they had, died, right? You know the name of their next child? This is a Bible trivia. You got to know this one. Yeah.
Is it Solomon?
It's Solomon. And Solomon is significant because Solomon is what? Yeah.
Is he the one who builds the temple?
Right. He's the next king.
Well, what happened to the one that died? The other one that died.
You mean David?
No.
You mean
No,
Absalom?
because they had, yeah. No, they had a baby that died, and then they had a son that died.
Right.
Absalom, and then Solomon.
Absalom, right?
I thought we were talking about the
Right.
baby.
David and Bathsheba. Out of that mess called David and Bathsheba comes Solomon. And if you track down through the story here, and you go down through enough of the begats, right? Solomon had so-and-so, and so-and-so had so-and-so, and so-and-so had so-and-so, and you get down to here, you know where this story ends up? Joseph. And his son, Jesus. God used, even with this mess, God used David to bring about good things. Even though this mess that sometimes we get ourselves into, God forgives and God will use you and still use you. Questions? I've talked for about 15 minutes in here, wrapping this up for you. Comments, thoughts, questions? All right? Yes.
So did God use David as an example of how we are?
Did he use him as an example, or is he an example?
Is he an example?
Okay, you answer your own question now. What do you think?
He used him as an example?
What do you think the answer is? You ask the question, I'll turn the question back at you.
I think yes, because what happened to David is what happened to us. Is that we sin, and then God forgives us, but we always have a consequence that comes from that sin.
Okay. All right, going on with that. Good. All right. What I need you to do is everybody take a deep breath. I have, you're familiar with my expression, deep end of the pool?
Yeah.
All right? This is the deep end of the pool. This is tough. This is tough stuff. This is hard stuff. This gets into it and wrestling with it. You guys did great. This was, as I said before, is always one of my fun ones, and you guys did great in this. Struggling through here. I got adults that could not process as well as you guys did. All right. Everybody sign Alexa's sheet?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Over there. All right. Alexa, make sure you sheet. You got Alexa's got kitten chow and paper towels. Make somebody help her get stuff up. You don't have to. Tables and chairs you can leave. Thank you all who helped set up tables and chairs. All right. Everybody else give them a round of applause. Thank you. All right.